The sea was designed to be a shield for these islands, but for centuries it was a prison. To the world, the United Kingdom represents an image of ancient tradition and unshakable order. We see the crown, the parliament, and the red brick cities that fueled the first industrial age. But look closer at the map, and you will see a kingdom that has spent 1,000 years trying to survive itself. Beneath this surface of stability lies a history defined by fragmentation and the constant threat of collapse. The Union was never a natural certainty. It was a fragile construction built through centuries of blood, ambition, and desperate compromise. Why did a land so naturally divided ever become a single nation? This is the story of how 4 distinct nations were bound together and how close they came to falling apart. Long before there was a United Kingdom, there was a fractured landscape of tribal kingdoms and shifting borders. Following the time when the Roman armies left, the islands entered a period of deep uncertainty. Germanic tribes, Vikings, and Normans all fought for control of the rich farmland of the south. By the Middle Ages, the Kingdom of England emerged as a centralized power, but its neighbors, Scotland, Wales, and Ireland, remained distinct and often defiant. The ambition of English kings to dominate the entire archipelago created a cycle of war that lasted for centuries. These were not just battles for land, but struggles for the soul of the people who lived there. But how could one crown ever hope to silence 4 different souls? Unification did not begin with a handshake. It began with an invasion. Edward I sought to bring Wales under the English crown, constructing a ring of massive stone fortresses to ensure control. Scotland proved to be a far more difficult challenge. The wars of Scottish independence defined the northern frontier, creating a history of fighting back that would echo through the generations. For a long time, the idea of a single British nation seemed impossible. Treaties could fix borders, but they could not erase a hatred that had been written in blood for generations. The islands were divided by language, law, and a deep-seated distrust that no treaty could easily erase. Religion would eventually become the fire that forged a new identity, but it also brought the nation to the brink of total destruction. The English Reformation changed the relationship between the people and the state. When the crown broke away from the power of the Pope, it triggered a century of internal strife. This tension exploded in the 17th century during the British Civil Wars. The nation was a glass house, and the hammers were falling from every side. A king was executed, the throne was removed, and the 3 kingdoms were held together by the military force of a republic. Families were divided, and the very concept of a British future seemed to vanish in the smoke of battle. The monarchy was dead, but as we will see, its ghost would soon return to make a desperate offer. When the monarchy was restored, the lesson was clear. The kingdoms could not survive as rivals. In 1707, a historic decision changed everything. The Act of Union between England and Scotland was born more from a need for money and political fear than from a shared sense of brotherhood. Scotland was facing financial ruin, and England feared a French-backed rebellion on its northern border. One signature ended centuries of war, but it started a new kind of struggle. With the stroke of a pen, the Kingdom of Great Britain was born. It was a marriage of convenience, intended to create a powerful Protestant state that could compete on the global stage. The map was now one color, but the people were still waiting for a reason to belong to it. Then everything changed. The Industrial Revolution turned green fields into blackened workshops almost overnight. This era brought immense wealth, but it also created new internal struggles. The gap between the wealthy elite and the working poor grew into a chasm. In the overcrowded cities of Manchester, Glasgow, and London, the peace between the people and the government was nearly broken. Radical movements demanded the right to vote and better conditions. The government feared a revolution similar to the one that had toppled the French monarchy. Once again, the nation was at a turning point, forced to choose between repression and reform. The nation was holding its breath. Would it break, or would it change? While Britain expanded its empire across the seas, its closest neighbor remained its greatest challenge. The relationship with Ireland was marked by tragedy and neglect. The Great Famine of the 1840s caused a terrible amount of death and led to a massive wave of emigration. This failure of the state to protect its own people fueled a desire for independence that could not be silenced. By the early 20th century, the United Kingdom faced a major legal struggle. The struggle for Irish Home Rule pushed the country to the edge of another civil war. Eventually, the island of Ireland was partitioned, and a large part of it left the Union. If one piece of the Union could break away so violently, who would be next? It was a painful reminder that the UK was not an indestructible entity. The two world wars of the 20th century provided the ultimate test of British resilience. In 1940, the nation stood almost entirely alone against a continent occupied by hostile forces. The threat of invasion was real, and the resources of the empire were being drained to the point of exhaustion. This was a moment of profound fragility. Every citizen was called upon to contribute to the defense of the islands. The shared sacrifice of the war years created a new sense of national unity that transcended old class divisions. The creation of the welfare state following the war was a promise that the nation would look after those who had fought for its survival. As the empire dissolved in the decades that followed, the United Kingdom had to find a new role in the world. The transition from a global imperial power to a modern European state was not easy. The loss of prestige and the economic struggles of the late 20th century led to a period of soul-searching. In the modern era, the old questions of identity have returned. Power began to move back to the individual nations, shifting the balance of the Union once again. The decision to leave the European Union further highlighted the different visions for the future held by the four nations. Today, the United Kingdom stands as a testament to the power of adaptation. It has survived civil wars, religious revolutions, and the collapse of its empire. Its history is not a straight line of progress, but a series of moments where the country had to reinvent itself to stay together. The tensions that shaped its past, the balance between central power and local identity, are still present. The Union remains a complex and sometimes uncomfortable partnership. It is held together not just by law, but by a shared history of facing challenges that once threatened to tear it apart. The Union was never a final destination. It has always been a rescue boat. The future of this Union is not guaranteed, just as its past was never certain. It remains a work in progress, a collection of stories bound by a single crown and a common hope for stability in an unpredictable world. The story of Britain is not one of peace, but of 1,000 narrow escapes. The tale of this nation is a reminder that unity is not the absence of conflict, but the continuous effort to overcome it. Every nation's tale is a chapter in the history of us all. If you found meaning in this journey, please like this video and subscribe. Feel free to explore our channel to see how other nations survived their own moments of fragility. Your support ensures these stories are never forgotten. Thank you for watching.